If we go back to the origins of the Glendale Gateway Trust, it was established at a time when it was recognised that there were particular challenges for rural communities, and those challenges included things like employment, housing provision and generally community welfare.
There was a cry for energy, I think, in the town. There was a cry for something to be done, but there wasn't an obvious body, there wasn't an obvious organisation that would move things forward.
The Trust nourishes something that is largely lost. People are always talking about community, but for me it's the glue that holds people together. It's in Wooler, with us being a smallish community, you get a sense of belonging, and because of the nature of the Trust and how it facilitates so many community projects, from the food bank, social housing, it's involved with all that. It sort of does, we do have a feeling of togetherness.
One of the main challenges we've had as an organisation is, early on, was sustaining ourselves. We had very good support from the local authority and the Regional Development Agency, as it was. And in 2009, we were really quite nervous about what the future held. That said, we had really taken on board what the locality were telling us, that we needed to develop assets and an income stream, and we worked very closely to do that. So in 2009, we had a large portion of our income was coming from our assets, and we knew we just needed to increase that.
The Glendale community is really strong, and that's really apparent in the lots of things that happen throughout the year, such as the Glendale Festival, the Glendale Agricultural Society show. There's a lot really happens here, and it's a positive space to live in. The Cheviot Centre works really well for us. We see it as a hub, so that's a bringing together of several services. We've got Newcastle Building Society, the library, the tourist information. Wooler Police Station are based here now as well. And we have several people who rent offices from us as well. Then we have the community spaces, so we have 2 halls which we rent out to people who might have an exercise class or a meeting or a business breakfast.
Wooler has had a youth hostel since 1932, believe it or not. We knew the hostel well. Some of us had actually worked there from time to time, and we were dismayed to hear the Youth Hostel Association were going to close it in 2006 as part of a big national reorganisation. We didn't want to lose it. So at the time we approached funders, and in a very short space of time we managed to actually raise the £250,000 that was required, bought it from the YHA.
The Gateway Trust are absolutely fantastic. So like I said, when first took the place over, because we had no experience in running a hostel at all, initially there was such a great resource to have to ask questions. So how did you do this before, and how do we do that, and what's this for? Tom from the Gateway Trust, for instance, he was a warden here, so the knowledge he has of the building is fantastic. Without this place being here, people wouldn't go down to these local shops and local communities. The tourist information place and the Gateway Trust at the Cheviot Centre there, that's a great resource for people coming.
We were delighted, absolutely delighted, that Carl and Cindy took over, and what a difference they've made. They clearly want to do the job, and it just reinforces that view that enabling is extremely important. It's not about managing everything, it's about enabling other people to manage. An area like ours in a deep rural location is so dependent on micro-enterprises, micro-businesses, and we've done what we can to try and support and encourage and enable people to start those micro-enterprises. We have a number of office spaces here at the Cheviot Centre. They're very popular. One of the reasons I'm convinced it's so successful is because it's such a nice environment to work in. We have offices in the main building, we have office pods, and there's just a nice community feeling about it, a nice atmosphere in the building.
Housing is certainly an issue, accommodation is an issue for people. So there needs to be accommodation that's affordable at every level.
We became a registered provider of social housing. We did that in 2011. and that gave us access to additional funding from the Homes and Communities Agency. We were able to develop more housing, we were able to develop our income stream, so it's put us in a fairly secure position.
The Trust has, over a number of years, taken over redundant properties, brought them into usage, refurbished them to a good standard, which has provided commercial opportunities for the High Street and living accommodation on the High Street as well, all of which returns a sense of life to a High Street that would otherwise be struggling. I think we also need access to our services. There is a trend, a drift for services to become ever more centralised on larger towns and larger communities. No good for people living here in rural communities. They need to have access to services easily and readily without huge travelling complications or huge expense.
If the RVS service didn't exist, our clients would be at home. They wouldn't have the place of safety to come to that they like and share with friends and like-minded people. We have a wide age range from 60 through to 90. They do love it so much that every time there's been a change, they worry that the RVS is not going to be still here for them. So yeah, it's heartwarming, it really is.
One of the things we've always said is we don't want to start activities and then have to stop them because they're not sustainable. And that overarching principle is the same for the Trust as a whole. We're here for the long haul. We're not an organisation that wants to disappear.
I think people expect voluntary community sector organisations to be delivering services and doing everything for nothing. And you can't, you simply can't. So we've tried to find that right balance in developing projects which fulfill a social need, but at the same time bring us in an income. So the community-led housing, the business units, the Achieve Centre, that's been our biggest challenge.
For me, the power of community means knowing that you're part of the community. If we ever have any problems or we have questions, that we can quite easily go to other partners in the community, our friends, and ask, and we know there's going to be help there. If we were in times of trouble or in need, we know that we can go and ask, and there'll be somebody there to help us, and likewise we'd be there to help them.
We work with each other, we work with the Glendale Trust. If we've got challenges as well, they usually know somebody that may be able to support us or signpost us as well. So the big thing about community for us is the fact that you've got the well-being, connections and the spiritual guidance as well. It's lovely, it is.
One of the things that we undervalue as a society is how much we can do when we all pull together in the same direction. And I think the power of community harnesses that. If we can work together to find a joint vision, a joint desire, a joint direction for our community, then the things that can be achieved are almost boundless.
What makes this community, this Glendale Gateway Trust, unique, in my opinion, it's the lack of ego that makes this place run. There's no me and mine in this, it's ours. That sense of belonging, to me, that is what community is about.
Power of community is extremely important. I think if we didn't have people behind us, if we didn't have supporters, if we didn't have good trustees, we could never have achieved what we've done. Trying to achieve consensus in a small place like this is really quite difficult, but I think if you can demonstrate that you're straightforward and your intentions are good, and you've got the community at heart, then I think you can get people on board and get people behind you and make things happen.